DeChaos, where order meets chaos. DeChaos, where order meets chaos.
Hey, welcome to DeChaos. I'm John Baeta, and in this podcast we talk about project management, the real kind. Not like those perfect projects that we do see on beautiful slide decks. The version that lives in people, pressure, ambiguity, and the small decisions that change everything. Today's episode is about something that every project manager faces sooner or later, even if they don't have a label for it. Multiculturalism. Nice word. Working across countries, across mindsets, across ways of thinking, and more importantly, across ways of saying yes, no, and maybe. So we love to say we manage global projects. But most of the time, we manage local expectations, spread across the world. Yes. And here's the trap. When we talk about multicultural project management, a lot of people go straight to stereotypes. Italians are like this, Germans are like that. Portuguese who? People in country X never escalate. People in country A are too direct. That's not what this episode is. This is not a tourism guide. And for sure it is not an academic lecture. This episode is about what actually breaks projects when culture is involved, not because people are different or difficult, but because the rules of the game are invisible. Multicultural project management is not about countries, it's about people and the unspoken rules they bring with them. Rules about how decisions get made, how disagreement is shown, how bad news are delivered, what commitment really means, and what people do, mainly when they don't feel safe. And I'm going to talk about this from experience. I've worked with global teams and led projects across Latin America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. And I've made mistakes, still do. Not as big as before, I hope. I've misread situations. I've assumed common sense was common. And over time, I realized something simple. Our plan can be global, but trust is always local. So today, I want to give you 3 things. First, a few real patterns I've seen repeating across countries and teams. Second, a couple of frameworks that can help you prepare without turning people into clichés. And third, practical tools you can use in your next project. Even if you never leave your country, because multiculturalism also exists inside the same office. Alright, let's get into it. After a few global projects, you stop asking, what is the right way? You will start asking, what is the expected way here? And that small variance changes everything. Because once you accept that expectations are different, you realize something else. Most project issues don't start with execution, they start with communication. We like to think communication problems come from language, from accents, from vocabulary. In reality, language is the easy part. What's hard is what sits underneath. I've seen situations where everyone in the room said yes, okay, of course, understood, and nothing happened. Not because people were lazy, not because they didn't care, because yes didn't mean the same thing. In the Philippines, for example, working with local Filipinos and also some Chinese colleagues, I experienced this constantly. Yes meant agreement, yes meant politeness, yes sometimes meant I don't fully understand but I don't want to push back. So I had to change the way I worked. More detail, more explicit requirements, less room for interpretation. Not because they were less capable, but because clarity reduced risk. In Brazil, it showed up differently. I'm almost there. I'm almost done. Those phrases weren't lies. They were shields. Ways to avoid confrontation. A way to avoid saying, I'm late, or I haven't started yet. And once you understand that, you stop reacting emotionally and you start managing expectations. And this is also why conflicts show up in very different places. In meetings, especially open ones with people at the same hierarchical level, conflict appears fast. There's no time to think, no time to frame the message. With emails, it is different. People can structure their thoughts, explain themselves, justify positions. Escalations, that's where it gets serious. Because suddenly, it's not just about delivery, it's about interest, power, and accountability. And yet across almost all cultures, there's one thing that is surprisingly universal. People avoid bringing bad news. Some do it loudly, some do it politely, some do it by staying silent. But the instinct is the same. That's why, as a project manager, I don't try to force honesty. I try to make it safe. A leadership culture where people can speak openly without fear of being exposed or punished. Respect should come from the quality of your work, not from fear of consequences. And once you start creating that safety, decision-making becomes the next challenge. Because communication and decision-making are not the same thing. Communication is often personal. Decision-making, that's mainly cultural. At a certain point in your career, you stop treating multicultural projects as a collection of anecdotes. You stop saying, this happened in that country, or that team was difficult, and you start noticing something deeper. Patterns. Situations change, countries change, industries change, but behaviors repeat. Silence, that means agreement in one place and discomfort in another. Yes, that means commitment, and yes, that simply means politeness. Detail that feels reassuring for some teams and overwhelming for others. A request for input that feels respectful in one culture and weak in another. Feedback that feels honest in one place and aggressive somewhere else. These are not stereotypes. They are signals, and the difference between a struggling project manager and an effective one is not experience alone. It's the ability to read those signals before they turn into risks. But here's the challenge. Recognizing patterns is not enough, because intuition is built after exposure, and projects don't wait for you to learn on the job. When you enter a new cultural environment, you need something that helps you prepare. And that's where frameworks come in. Cultural frameworks are often misunderstood. They are not rigid rules, and you cannot either dismiss them completely. Everyone is different. Frameworks are not there to explain you, they are there to help you think. Models like the cultural dimensions proposed by Geert Hofstede or the culture map developed by Erin Meyer don't give you answers. They give you hypotheses. They help you anticipate things like how direct communication tends to be, whether disagreement is usually explicit or implicit, if decisions are expected to be consensual or directed, how authority is perceived and challenged, how comfortable people are with uncertainty, how feedback is normally delivered. Used properly, these frameworks may support you to reduce friction before it appears, while helping you avoid asking the wrong questions, helping you avoid creating unnecessary resistance, helping you avoid misinterpreting behavior too quickly. Used badly, they do the opposite. They create labels, they create shortcuts, they create false confidence. And false confidence is dangerous. This is the critical distinction. Frameworks describe countries, cultures, not individuals. And projects are run by individuals. A framework can tell you what is likely. It can never tell you what is true. That's why I never use these tools to judge behavior. I use them to prepare my mindset before entering a new project. They help me ask myself better questions. But the moment the project starts, observation takes over. Yes, observation. Because leadership is not about applying models, it's about adapting in real time. Frameworks should make you curious, not confident, prepared, but humble. The moment you think, I understand how these people work, you stop listening. And the moment you stop listening, you stop leading. What really makes the difference in practice is how all of this translates into daily project behavior. Not big interventions, not complex processes, simple, deliberate actions, clear expectations, stated explicitly, not assumed, clear objectives, shared and repeated, not hidden in a slide deck, no ambiguity around who decides what, and no pretending that everyone decides together when they don't. Meetings where silence is noticed, not ignored, where the quiet voices are invited in, not left behind. Discussions where disagreement is allowed without punishment. Brainstorming sessions where hierarchy is temporarily suspended so ideas can surface before titles do. And team building that is not about fun alone, but about trust. Because trust is what allows people to bring bad news early. And bad news brought early is not a problem. It is an opportunity to steer. This is also why multiculturalism is not only about geography. But you don't need to cross borders to face these dynamics. You can have a multicultural project inside the same office. Different backgrounds, different seniority, different communication styles, different risk appetites, same dynamics. And this is why patterns, frameworks, and practice only make sense together. Patterns help you notice. Frameworks help you prepare. Practice is where leadership actually happens. Once you realize that patterns do exist, that frameworks help you prepare, and that practice is where leadership really happens, there's a question that inevitably comes up. Where does AI fit into all of this? AI is everywhere now. Why not here also? AI is in project management tools, in reporting, in communication, in decision support, and it would be naive to ignore it. But, and this is a very important but, it would be just as dangerous to misunderstand its role. AI is very good at logic. It's good at structure, it's good at synthesis, it's good at spotting patterns across large amounts of data. It can summarize conversations, identify trends, highlight inconsistencies, surface risks you might otherwise miss. I can tell you that a certain culture tends to avoid confrontation, that escalation usually happens late, that feedback is often indirect, and that is useful. Very, very useful. But here's the border, and it is a very well-defined border. AI doesn't know people. It doesn't feel tension in a room. It doesn't notice hesitation before someone speaks. It doesn't sense when silence is no longer neutral, but dangerous. And more importantly, AI has no instinct. Instinct is what tells you that something is off, even when all indicators look green. Instinct is what makes you pause before approving a plan that is perfect on paper and wrong in reality. Instinct is built from experience, from being in uncomfortable rooms, from seeing the same pattern fail in different ways, from noticing small signals before they become big problems. AI can process what already exists. Instinct reacts to what is emerging. In multicultural environments, instinct becomes even more important because the most critical signals are rarely explicit. They live in pauses, in tone, in what is not said. AI doesn't understand why someone says yes while their body language says no. It doesn't feel the weight of hierarchy. It doesn't read fear. It doesn't read pride. It doesn't read loyalty. This is why I don't see AI as a decision maker. I see it as a decision enabler. AI can help you ask better questions. It can help you challenge assumptions. It can help you prepare conversations, but it cannot replace judgment, especially human judgment, judgment that combines data, context, and instinct. Delegating leadership to AI would be a dangerous mistake, but ignoring AI would also be a newbie mistake. The balance is subtle. Use AI to clarify. Use AI to structure. Use AI to reduce noise, but keep humans responsible for meaning, because meaning is contextual and context is cultural. This is why I strongly believe the future of project management is not AI-led. It is human-led, with AI empowering our decisions, not making them for us. AI can show you patterns. Instinct tells you which ones matter. AI can surface risks. Instinct tells you when to act. AI can optimize plans. Instinct tells you when to stop and rethink. And in multicultural environments, trust is not a soft skill. It is the delivery mechanism. This mindset changes everything. You stop asking, what can AI decide for me? And you start asking, how can AI help me see better so I can decide better? When we talk about multicultural project management, we often focus on complexity, which unite more stakeholders, more time zones, more misunderstandings. But complexity is not the real challenge. The real challenge is humility. Humility to accept that your way of working is not the default setting of the world. Humility to accept that being experienced doesn't mean being right. Every time you enter a new project, you are stepping into a system that existed before you arrived, with its own rhythms, its own history, its own scars. And leadership starts when you respect that reality, not by lowering standards, but by translating them. Because leadership in multicultural environments is not about imposing consistency, it's about creating coherence between expectations and reality, between intention and impact, between what is said and what is understood. And this is why so many global projects struggle. Not because people don't work hard, not because plans are weak, but because alignment is assumed instead of built. Built through presence, through curiosity, through patience. So if there is one quiet shift I'd invite you to make after this episode, it's this one. Stop trying to manage culture. Start trying to understand it. Stop asking, how do I make this project work my way? And start asking, what does success look like here? Because the strongest leaders are not the ones who dominate the room. They are the ones who learn how the room works, and when you do that, something interesting happens. Resistance drops, ownership grows, and projects stop feeling like battles. They start feeling like collaborations. Not easy, not perfect, but real. And that's where meaningful delivery happens. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm João Baita. This was DeChaos. Don't forget, you should not try to eliminate chaos, but to learn how to lead inside it. Thank you. Until next week.
DeChaos, where order meets chaos.